Back in 2015 or 2016, I had a chance to talk with Grant Cardone. The book that he wrote at the time was Be Obsessed or Be Average. We went back and forth quite a bit on the interview. As you can hear toward the end, I mispronounced his last name, and he kind of said something about it, and we went back and forth, and he mentioned that it was one of his best interviews that he ever had. He sent me a note, a handwritten note after the fact. You can actually see a picture of it in this episode as the profile picture. So kick back, relax, and enjoy this episode of BS with Bob Schmidt. It is Be Obsessed or Be Average with Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone joining me now. Be Obsessed or Be Average. Is that a picture of you on the cover of the book?
That's a picture of me. Yes, that is.
All right, so you're pretty flexible to be able to straddle an airplane, huh?
A bigger question is that my plane?
Is that your? How about this? Is that your plane?
Yes, it is. The second question is the engine hot?
I know the answer to that. It's not, because you got a smile on your face.
yeah, exactly. So I'm straddling that Gulfstream. I'm straddling the engine, and they took the shot, and they're like, "That's going to be our cover right there." And the whole thing was kind of a joke anyway. So,
well, Be Obsessed or Be Average. How did you come up with the name of the book?
Well, this is my 19th business program. I mean, really what I do is I help companies grow revenue. Mm-hmm. And work with a lot of companies where they're having problems with people that are engaged. 70% of the workforce in America is disengaged. And if you meet the owners of these successful companies at the very top of the food chain, or the department head that's an exceptional person, all of them have this quality of being obsessed, of being all in, of being consumed by their goals, their targets, so this book's really about how do you become that person that's all in and that becomes unstoppable. How do you become that person, Grant? Yeah, that's a good question. You got to get sick and tired. You got to get sick and tired of being average. In America's a breeding ground today for average. It's like, let's just do the average thing now. We 200 years ago, we were looking for the greatness and freedom, and now 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Some 52% of Americans don't have any money in their bank. Less than $100 for retirement. It's awful. In a country, the gift in this country is that you were born here. I mean, you're blessed if you were born in this country, but shame on you, man, if you don't make it here in a big way. And I think that's because people are told not to be obsessed, not to be all in, not to have that addictive characteristic, not to be control freaks, like slow down. Mommy's telling you slow down. Bobby, we love you, little Bobby, just the way you are. No BS now. We love you just the way you are, Bobby, which really is don't
No, wait,
change.
Everything you just said hits home. My mom calls me Bobby. My show's called BS. Oh!
I know that. Dude, I do my homework, dude, because I'm obsessed. I remember telling my mom when I was 16, because my mom, we were middle class, and she was always worried about money. Uh-huh. I mean, every day there was fear about money, right? And we weren't broke, but we were worried about being broke. And I told her, I said, one day I'm going to grow up. I was probably 16 years old. I said, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich, where I can just waste money. And I'm going to sit on a jet engine one day, Mama. and she said, son, that's good, but I love you just the way you are. And the point of the second part of that is don't change. Mm-hmm. And underneath that, I was aware I wasn't talking about you, Mom. I'm talking about me getting rich. I'm not talking about how you feel about me. I'm talking about I know I can do this. And this book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, is really waking people up and saying, look, you need to wake up the beast inside of you, that hunger inside of you that wants to be rich, that wants to be famous, that wants to get out, that wants to be free, and doesn't want to worry about this election that's coming up where we got two goofuses running for president of the United States.
Right. Hey, we're on the same page when it comes to that. Holy cow! So
yeah.
how do you overcome the naysayers? Because there's so many people that, well, I want to do this. Well, you can't do that. You're only one guy. How the hell are you pull that off?
Yeah, exactly. And you bring up a good point. Most people ask about the haters. They're like, how do you handle haters? And I'm like, look, the haters, while the whole subject of haters is popular, haters aren't the problem. It's the people close to you that love you. It's the woman you sleep with, that says, "Hey, Bobby, why are you working so hard? You know, we don't need all this." I remember I had this girlfriend. I'm telling this girl, I'm gonna live across the street on the ocean. I'm gonna have this great life. She's like, we don't need all that. I love you the way you are, Grant. I like what we got right now. And I'm like, but again, it's about what I want, right? So to handle naysayers, you got to be aware that the people close to you, when they tell you, slow down, we don't need all that, I don't need that to be happy, they are trying to make sense of why they gave up on their dreams and their goals. They're not really even talking to you. You know, when your mom says, Bobby, don't change a thing about you. Don't change, Bobby. She's probably still telling you that. Little Bobby, don't change anything, right? She's not really talking to you. She's talking to herself. She's imagining you're still 3 or 4 years old, and she had you in her arms when she could carry you, and she remembers kissing your face in the mornings.
Right. And now if she did, she'd be using a little wipe it.
Yeah, exactly. And my mom's like, "Hey, when are you going to buy me a house?" I said, I had to be a football player and stupid to do that.
Well, you can trade on your plane. So at what point, Grant, does it become, your obsession become certifiably crazy?
Yeah, well, at 2 points. When you only have one, then you're going to have problems, because one won't satisfy you. And number 2, when it's doing more harm than good.
Meaning?
So, like, you know, meaning like, well, at 16 years old, I was smoking weed every day. 17, I was popping pills. At 18, I'm doing you pass me a drug and I'm eating it.
Mm-hmm.
So when your obsessions become misguided and destructive, hurting more people than it's doing good, then it's a problem. But the good news is, for every person that's ever had an addiction of any sort, by the way, everybody on this planet has had one. You know, we just recognize the drug addict. The drug addict's the only guy we recognize for an addiction, but there's the golfing addict. You know, there's the chick that obsesses on her heels, spends $12,000 a year on heels. And there's all kind of compulsions or obsessions or addictions, that addictive behavior. The good news is you have it. If you have it, you can tap into it and use it. It's not something to be denied. I got in trouble when I started denying the fact that I wanted to be wealthy one day, that I wanted the hottest chick in the room, that I wanted to be successful, I wanted to be a celebrity, I wanted to be in business, I wanted these things, right? And the more I compressed or denied that, the more my addictive natures popped out in other forms.
So what was your rock bottom point where you said, I'm not going to smoke weed anymore, I'm not going to take pills, I'm not going to take every drug that's handed to me?
I had 9 years of daily rock bottoms. So, you know, it's funny, the rock bottom thing, everybody's looking for that one moment. Literally, Bob, for 9 years, every day for 9 years, whatever that is, 3,000 days or something, I said, today I'm done. Today I quit. Today I hate myself enough to quit. And by the end of the day, I found another bottom. But it was when I was 25 years old. I went to a treatment center, walked into a treatment center, 28 days with no drugs in a treatment center. And I walked out, and the counselor there told me, he's like, because, you know, you puke your whole guts and your whole life story up at the treatment center. You got to tell everything. And so when I was walking out, the guy says, look, man, you need to give up any and all ideas you have about being successful and rich and famous and marrying a chick and writing books. You need to give all that up and just be grateful if you go one day without using drugs. And I walked out of there, I said, that dude is a quack. I'm going to get as rich as I can, but I'm never using drugs again, because I knew if I kept using drugs, I was going to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just threw all that energy. The next day, I went back to work, and I threw all my energy and time into becoming great at a job I didn't even like at the time.
I think a lot of people have jobs that they don't like. I'm looking through your book right now, Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone, and one of the things that you have on here, which is something that goes against everything that I've ever heard about sales, everything I've ever heard about setting up your client. You say overpromise and then overdeliver. Most people underpromise and then overdeliver.
Yeah, most people say to underpromise. But, I mean, why would you want to start a relationship out on a lie? Because, I mean, it's deception.
I know, but if you're telling somebody that you're going to be able, if you promise somebody, I'm going to give you the stars, the moon, the sun, and then you only give them the stars and the moon, then that you've underdelivered, I think.
then you under-delivered. But what would over-deliver and over-commit mean? It would mean promise the moon, the stars, the sun, and then you better deliver that in a good urine, a Venus or something.
Okay.
Because the marketplace is going to punish anybody that under-delivers, and it will certainly punish anybody that under-promises.
True.
So people are trying to get in the door. They're trying to get in the door. They're trying to get recognized. They're trying to get attention, and they're under-promising. Okay? In the world we live in today that is a social media, attention-connected universe, if you don't get noisy, you don't get loud, and you don't overpromise, nobody will even know you. They won't even know you exist, so you'll never have the chance to deliver.
Grant, can everybody be successful?
Absolutely, everybody can be. Not only can they be successful, they can be wildly successful beyond their greatest imagination. I absolutely believe that. Now, I can give you example after example. I mean, what's Jay-Z doing with $500 million?
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, look,
there's average people that have that got lucky. I guess they worked hard for that luck. Is that what you're trying to say? Or they worked hard in order to...
Totally. They had to be in the right place at the right time. Anytime I get the winning ticket, I look at it. Nobody gave me that ticket. I had to buy that ticket.
Right.
I had to show up and purchase that ticket. So anybody can be successful if you don't quit. Anybody can be super successful if you become obsessed with that concept. And find other things to be excited about, too, not just the one thing, because the one thing will never fulfill an individual, ever.
How many different goals should you have then? I mean, how many different things should you be working to try to be the best at? If you've got 5 things, if you're juggling 5 things, you know as well as I do that if you got 5 things going on, you're going to half-ass 3 of them.
No. Well, I mean, I hear you, man. I hear you. But, the more things I got going on, the better I do at handling them. I'm just telling you, like I run 5 companies today. I take the time to be a good husband. I take the time to be a good father. I'm doing this interview with you today. All BS. I'm going to take care of my body today. Look, I'm obsessed with freaking success, man. I don't want to be average. I've done the average thing. People like, all the success stuff won't make you happy. I'm like, neither will the failing stuff. I've done it. They're both work. Failing is work. Average is work. And success is work. And unbelievable levels of success is work. And the reality is what I know today is they're all work. In fact, failing and average are probably more work than the super successful.
How so?
It's because all of a sudden now you have it's a different level of work, right? You now have some leverage in the marketplace. You have some money to buy things. You have choices as opposed to when I grew up middle class. When I grew up middle class, man, the work was so lethargic and stodgy and thick, and there was never a payoff. See, most people only work hard enough to feel like it's work. They don't ever work to the degree where there's a payday, where there's some freedom at the other end. Mm-hmm. Be obsessed, be average says, look, if you want to really live the American dream, which, by the way, it's still here. The American dream's alive and well. You have to start thinking like obsessed people. You got to give up on the ideas of the middle class mythology. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to get a good job and I'm going to be happy. I'm going to get a good wife or a husband. We're going to have a couple little kitties. They're going to have bicycles. We're going to get a little rough. And everybody's going to live happily ever after, man. It's BS. The only people that are living unbelievable lives are the people that are going for unbelievable lives. Everybody else is left with a middle-class leftover. I know it's a crushing, hard thing for people to hear that have depended upon the middle-class $60,000 a year job, family of 5, and if you make 100, then you're upper class. But it's all a lie.
How do we put ourselves above and beyond that other person, though? People that are listening right now, Grant, are probably like, they're on their way to their job that they hate. They have a boss that they think is an a-hole. They got a wife that they don't like. They're going to a conference later today where their kid is a tool. And they've got all this crap piled up against them, and they're trying to just fight just to be alive. How all of a sudden can that person that's just fighting to be alive all of a sudden go from average to bam? Look at him. Look at Bob over there. He's flying high. He's owner of the company, CEO of the world. You know what I mean? You
got to make a decision. I had to make a decision. I made a decision 365 times 9 years. Hey, I'm going to change my life today. It didn't work. It didn't work for 9 years, and then one day it did. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I had to get up and say, okay, I'm going to go do this again, and I'm going to change my life and do something great here because I'm not settling for the leftovers. I am not going to grow up the way my mother lived her life, worried every day about how much money she spent at the local grocery store for apples. Or we'd have a banana, and the last 2 pieces of the banana had to be put away in the refrigerator. That ain't freedom.
No, you're right.
Or I can't tell anybody, I can't tell the people at my job, where I work, they won't even spend money on advertising because they're worried. How do you grow a business if you won't spend money? 22 million small businesses in America, where America is the entrepreneurial leader of the world. 22 million out of 28 million small businesses in America don't have any employees.
Right.
That means John went to work for himself, started his own company, and doesn't hire anybody. I mean, he's stupid. This is ridiculous. You're the slave, you're the prisoner, you're the warden, you hold the keys. Now you work harder for yourself than you did for somebody else, and now you hate your boss, which is yourself.
You're right. A lot of people do that. That's why a lot of businesses fail. I got to ask you, Grant, you said that the American dream is still alive and well. What is that American dream nowadays? It used to be a pot in every chicken in every pot and a car in every garage. What's the American dream now?
Well, that was a lie. That was a politician. That was a total lie on the American public to keep people civil. For me, the American dream would be I get to go where I want, do what I want, say what I want, and get to do business with who I want. Mm-hmm. Today I know that just having some money, just having a couple $100,000 a year or whatever the number is for you to pay for your stuff, that's not freedom, man. The American dream is that FU money.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we're not going to do the book unless I'm sitting on the engine of the plane, man. Y'all want to do this or not, right? So the American dream would be, and it's built upon the backs of pioneers, rebels. I want to be able to say and do what I want.
I think that's the dream of everybody. Actually, when you said the FU money, I was thinking, just add an N to the end of that, and you got fun money on top of that. I just got to say, one last thing I noticed on your book, Be Obsessed, Be Average. I like this quote right here. Find the time each day to make an extra sales call for your company. That's golden right there.
Yeah, like you make excuses or you make time. I don't make excuses. I went home yesterday. I did 25 radio tours, okay, plus ran my business. I'm going home exhausted. And my little girl's there, and she's like, Papa, can we ride the bike? And I wanted to say, you know what, not today, baby. But I said, I remember this. Make time. Make it. Create time. Mm-hmm. Don't make excuses. You want to make time or you want to make excuses, but you can't make both. And by the way, time is money. When you learn how to make time, create time, expand time, to make that extra call, to kiss your wife goodbye, to send her some flowers. Like I'm not talking about being obsessed with just money. I'm talking about be obsessed with an unbelievable life. Or, hey, guess what? We get to just have the average one that lasts too long.
Grant Cardone, Be Obsessed or Be Average. How do we find your book, Grant?
Well, first of all, learn to pronounce my name right. Grant Cardone. I'm just kidding, Bob. Grant Cardone. You can find it anywhere.
I said Grant Cardone, didn't I?
No, it was good, dude. It was good.
I didn't say Card One. It's spelled Card One. At least I didn't say Cardone.
No, it's Card One.
Or Cardone. I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. I'm gonna tell you, this is the best interview I've had out of 26 interviews.
Well, no kidding. That's because I'm obsessed and I'm not average. That's the reason why. We're kindred spirits right here, Grant.
Look, I had a lady yesterday say that I was a manic. I said, what? I said, look, I've been called a bipolar, ADD, ADHD, manic. You got me down as a double manic? That ain't bad.
A double negative, man. So you're positive. Yeah! So how do we find it? Quick, I'm running out of time. How do we find the book?
Yeah, so wherever. Amazon. Go to the giant, man. Go to Amazon. Grant Cardone, Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Thanks so much for listening to the BS with Bob podcast. Basically, it's just me pulling up the metaphorical bar stool and chatting with everyone from entertainers to educators to business owners to marketing gurus. People who've done cool things, survived weird stuff, and have a good story to tell. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast.